TeenAP13. In this episode of The Lucy Show, Lucy, once again played with unstoppable comedic energy by Lucille Ball, becomes convinced that she has finally discovered a way to dramatically improve her life and impress everyone around her after accidentally overhearing part of a conversation that she completely misunderstands. And like always, instead of asking for clarification, she instantly builds an entire fantasy around the little information she has, deciding that this new opportunity could change everything if she handles it correctly. And from the very beginning, her excitement becomes impossible to contain as she rushes into action with total confidence despite having only the vaguest understanding of what is actually happening, leading Mary Jane to immediately grow suspicious because she recognizes the exact look Lucy gets whenever she's about to turn an ordinary situation into absolute chaos. And at first, Lucy tries to act casual, pretending she has everything perfectly under control. But within minutes, she is already making elaborate plans, assigning herself responsibilities nobody asked her to take, and speaking as though success is practically guaranteed, while everyone else around her remains confused about why she's suddenly behaving like she's preparing for some major operation. And the comedy quickly starts building as Lucy begins trying to manage multiple details at once, even though she barely understands the basics, constantly improvising and making decisions based entirely on assumptions, which naturally creates a growing series of misunderstandings that spread through the bank and beyond. Because every time someone asks her a simple question, she answers with unnecessary confidence instead of honesty, forcing herself deeper into the lie while trying to preserve the image that she knows exactly what she's doing. And as the episode progresses, the situation becomes more and more complicated, especially once additional characters get involved and start reacting to the false information Lucy has accidentally created, causing the original misunderstanding to evolve into something far bigger than it ever should have been. And what makes it even funnier is that Lucy remains convinced she can still control everything if she just keeps moving fast enough. So she spends most of the episode rushing from one place to another, desperately trying to maintain several conflicting versions of reality at the same time, hiding evidence, changing plans mid-conversation, redirecting people before they discover the truth, and physically throwing herself into increasingly ridiculous situations that require split-second improvisation to escape. And the physical comedy becomes especially strong here because Lucy's panic starts leaking through her confident act, leading to frantic reactions whenever things begin slipping out of control. Yet somehow she still refuses to stop, convinced that admitting the truth would be worse than continuing the disaster she's already created. And the tension steadily builds toward a major moment where all the misunderstandings are destined to collide. And by the time that moment arrives, Lucy is juggling so many lies, assumptions, and last-minute fixes that the entire situation becomes a giant ticking time bomb waiting to explode. And of course, when the collapse finally happens, it does so in spectacular fashion, with multiple characters realizing different pieces of the truth at the exact same time, creating a massive chain reaction of confusion, shock, frustration, and perfectly timed comedic chaos as Lucy scrambles hopelessly to contain everything before it completely falls apart. But every attempt she makes only exposes more of the truth until there is no possible way left for her to hide what she's done, leaving her standing right in the middle of the disaster she accidentally engineered from what should have been a simple misunderstanding. And for one brief moment, there's genuine embarrassment on her face as she realizes how ridiculous the entire situation has become. Yet even then, Lucy's natural resilience kicks in almost immediately, shifting her from panic mode into explanation mode as she rapidly tries to justify her actions by insisting she only wanted to help or improve things, even though nobody can fully follow her logic anymore because the story has become too tangled to explain cleanly. And the reactions from everyone around her range from exhaustion to reluctant amusement because by this point, they all understand that Lucy's chaos is practically unstoppable, and despite all the frustration, there's still something oddly endearing about how genuinely hard she tries. Even when her efforts create complete madness, and eventually the situation starts calming down as the misunderstandings are sorted out one by one, people slowly return to their normal routines, and Mr. Mooney delivers another tired lecture about how Lucy needs to stop interfering in things she doesn't fully understand. Though even he sounds less angry than exhausted because deep down he knows she's probably going to do something similar again eventually. And the final moments perfectly capture the spirit of the show as Lucy appears reflective for about 5 seconds before suddenly getting excited over a completely new idea that she insists is totally different from the last disaster, immediately causing visible panic in everyone nearby while she confidently marches toward what is obviously going to become another catastrophe, ending the episode on that classic feeling that no matter how many times Lucy fails, she will always bounce back with fresh confidence, ready to transform yet another ordinary day into a beautiful chaotic mess. And even after the main disaster has already unfolded, the episode keeps squeezing comedy out of the aftermath because Lucy refuses to fully accept defeat. And instead of quietly moving on like a normal person, she becomes obsessed with the idea that the entire situation could still somehow be salvaged if she is just given one more chance to explain herself properly, which immediately alarms Mary Jane because she knows from experience that one more chance in Lucy's world usually means another round of confusion, layered on top of the original confusion. And sure enough, Lucy begins attempting to repair her reputation by individually approaching everyone involved and retelling the story from her own perspective, except every version she tells is slightly different because she keeps adjusting the details to make herself sound more reasonable, which only creates brand new contradictions once the characters start comparing notes. And before long, people are even more confused than they were during the original incident because now nobody can tell which version of events is actually true, including Lucy herself, who becomes increasingly tangled inside her own explanations as she tries to remember which story she told to which person, leading to several hilarious scenes where she accidentally mixes details together mid-conversation and has to immediately invent even more excuses to cover the mistake, and this creates a snowball effect where her attempts at fixing the truth become more chaotic than the original lie, forcing her into constant improvisation as she races through the bank trying to intercept conversations before people discover the inconsistencies, hiding behind doors, eavesdropping on discussions, and physically dragging people away from each other whenever she senses the truth getting too close to surfacing again. And the comedy during these moments becomes increasingly frantic because Lucy is operating entirely on panic and momentum, no longer thinking ahead at all, just reacting to problems as they explode around her in real time, while everyone else grows more exhausted by the minute trying to follow what is even happening anymore. And Mr. Mooney eventually reaches a point where he can barely process Lucy's logic at all, staring at her with the expression of a man whose brain has simply given up attempting to understand the madness unfolding in front of him, which somehow only encourages Lucy further because she mistakes his stunned silence for partial agreement. And this misunderstanding gives her enough confidence to launch into one final desperate plan to clear everything up once and for all, insisting that if everyone gathers together, she can explain the situation properly and restore order. A sentence that instantly terrifies everyone who hears it because by now they know Lucy explaining things almost always makes them worse. But before anyone can stop her, she sets the plan into motion, organizing a meeting that quickly spirals into absolute bedlam as all the conflicting stories, hidden mistakes, and unresolved misunderstandings collide at the exact same time, creating a giant avalanche of overlapping arguments, accusations, and confusion while Lucy desperately attempts to control the conversation like an orchestra conductor losing a battle against the orchestra itself. And every time she tries clarifying one detail, she accidentally exposes another lie or contradiction, causing the entire room to erupt again while she spins around trying to patch holes faster than they appear, until eventually the full ridiculous truth comes crashing down all at once, and everyone finally understands that the entire mess started because Lucy overheard something incorrectly and then built an entire fantasy around it without ever checking whether she understood it properly. And the realization is so absurd that even the angriest characters can't fully maintain their frustration because the situation has become too ridiculous not to laugh at. Especially once Lucy herself finally recognizes how wildly out of control things became and slowly transitions from defensive panic into embarrassed acceptance, awkwardly smiling while admitting that maybe she might have misunderstood one tiny detail, which of course is the understatement of the century considering the scale of chaos she caused. And the exhausted reactions around her become part of the humor too, because nobody even has enough energy left to properly yell anymore. They just stare at her with the kind of disbelief reserved for natural disasters. And yet, despite everything, there's still warmth underneath the comedy because Lucy's intentions were never malicious. She genuinely believed she was helping or improving things. And that sincerity softens the frustration enough for the episode to settle back into its usual comforting rhythm, with everyone gradually calming down and life at the bank returning to normal once again. Though now with an even stronger determination to keep Lucy away from sensitive information at all costs. And the final moments deliver one last perfect joke as Lucy, apparently having learned absolutely nothing from the experience, overhears another partial conversation and immediately lights up with curiosity again, while the people around her panic in real time trying to stop her before the next disaster can begin, ending the episode with that classic feeling that in the Lucy show chaos is never truly over as long as Lucy is still around thinking she has a brilliant new idea.